USL Championship. This week's stop, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we catch up with FC Tulsa. And as it was listed by Nicholas Murray, a sterling start for FC Tulsa. And the guy who is at the heart of it all on the touchline, head coach Michael Nsien, is hanging out with us here. Coach, it is John, it is Jason. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on.
So, Coach, if I had told you that your start would be what it was and where you are right now, what would you have told me?
Exactly as planned. You just try to prepare the best you can in preseason and try to take it game by game after that. But, once the schedule came out, I felt like if we could get to the point of this long road trip having 6 points before Indy, we give ourselves a chance at a pretty good run. So we were glad to cap that off with a win at Indy.
How difficult was preseason for you, Michael, with still dealing with COVID, still dealing with protocols, just trying to get everything together in a weird time frame for teams? It feels like the leagues have gotten off to some strange starts for some teams. You guys have hit the ground running. What did you do to handle that weird time frame?
Yeah, I would say for the most part it was patience. We were off 5+ months, and my wheels were turning, wanting to come back and put my team through the paces and get them prepared. But it was like they've been off a long time. I have to be patient. I can't rush into a training session at 100% intensity, kind of ease them back in, want them to be healthy and safe. And obviously we still had some protocols. So it was like, you get back in, it's like, and then you still kind of have to, in that period that you're still kind of being patient and trying to understand the process of what was going on with the protocol. So the players had the right mindset coming in. They were hungry. Felt like we have a pretty competitive team, and they're open to learn. So I feel like the preseason was excellent.
And one of the things that I think has shown out early, Coach, is just the depth where you can get you can pretty much get a goal from any angle, any guy. You could look at your roster and sit there and go, okay, I know that he can be the one that's going to do it for me. You're getting it from a bunch of different places, and I think that that's showing up early, where we were looking at a guy like Jerome Kiesewetter coming in and being one of those instant success stories for you, but he's coming in off the bench and he's being successful, not being a starter. So I think that it shows that your depth is really showing out so far out of the blocks.
Yeah, when you have the players that we have in our front four, we feel like we can really balance the rest of the team, like organized defensively. We have really attacking fullbacks as well, so we can go to a few different angles. Jerome was somewhat unfortunate. Our first match, he took a little foot knock that week leading to the first match, so he got taken out of the lineup. And when things are going well, there's no need to change. So he's still working hard and has the right attitude. But the squad depth is incredible. So it makes it competitive for the players that if you get an opportunity, you don't want to give it back because guys are thriving.
I want to dig into your coaching journey a little bit, Michael. You've just recently went through the pro license and acquired that, and it's a kind of a new process with U.S. Soccer. How did you feel about the course, and has it helped you in your day-to-day?
Yeah, 100%. I had done all the licenses up to the A, and then I've also done my UEFA badges in Europe. I was excited to come back and do a license again in the U.S. It had been some time. When you go through those processes, you think maybe it's just one or two things I can take from it, or more, but sometimes you just get a couple of things that really stick with you. I think from the USSF Pro, one of the things that I got the most of is being able to be present, live in the moment. We coaches go through things like that. We have families and other things, and it's just like trying to find that balance consistently that you're in a good headspace. So through my mentors and colleagues and kind of the plan they put in place is just having those discussions openly. How do you deal with, the stress of a season and not seeing your family and just putting things in perspective. But they gave us very good tools to deal with that.
What's the first piece of advice that you ever got when you started your coaching journey that stuck with you, and who gave it to you?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say coaching stuff. When I was playing in Los Angeles, we had Steve Sampson and Billy McNichol that were there. I had a pretty good relationship with Billy McNichol. I would contact him after I got done playing there. Once I started coaching, I would speak to him regularly. You know, I had an opportunity. I did the Pro B license, but he told me to try to go through every phase. So I started at DC, still did the Pro B. He just said that soak everything up. That, you know, sometimes players transition into coaching, and it happens too fast. You know, use the skill set you've acquired from being a player, but also dig in and just try to sink your teeth into being a coach. Like, go through every step properly. Don't skip any steps. And that's stuck with me for a long time.
Something that's come up a lot as we've talked about the USL Championship and we covered League One as well is the community aspect and getting active in the communities and how it's so important to the clubs across the country. I was reading a little bit about what you guys are doing with the Tulsa Dream League. Could you tell us about that process?
Yeah. Well, North Tulsa is a predominantly minority community. It's actually where I grew up. It's mostly African American, and it's becoming more also Hispanic. You know, there's just not much outreach. There's not much for kids to do in terms of like facilities and recreation centers anymore. So when you're not doing those things, you can find yourself in trouble, you know, when you're not busy. So I think through our club and some other donors, they were able to put together this league in North Tulsa that serves some schools, a lot of it's school teams. Cool. So we sponsored the school teams, and it's beautiful. Like I went out a few weeks ago, and to be honest, when I played growing up as a youth player, I was only African American that I knew from my community that was playing. So I was able to go back and see hundreds of kids on the field playing a game in my community, and it was, to be honest, it was a bit emotional for me to see that.
So when you're able to give back in your hometown, and you see someone, you know, I'm not going to say get it for the first time, but understand what soccer can mean, and when you're able to be that conduit and you can be that individual, what's it like for you to see it rub off on the younger generations and see a window open that may not necessarily have opened if that opportunity hadn't been there?
Yeah, you know, it's early. So I think the opportunities that will come their way for these kids that end up falling in love with the game, they have no idea. Just speaking on my own experience, I'm not sure how if I would have been able to go to college or to travel and see the world like I have, or obviously make a living coaching like I am now, or a former professional player. I'm not really sure how my story would be today or how it would have ended. These kids will have an opportunity that, you know, whether it's college, professionally, or just to simply be healthy, you know, and playing a sport that's all year round, that gives you a discipline that prepares you for the world, and the relationships you make. You know, anyone that's been involved in soccer a long time, like 75% or more probably of your friends and your network of people are from that community. You know, so you build a network that basically takes you out of that cycle of poverty that happens in certain communities. So I'm looking forward to the lasting impact and seeing how the growth continues from the league, and also where some of these kids hopefully end up in the future.
As a role model, you know, formerly as a player, now as a young coach, what are some of the things that you pass on in terms of advice to people who seek you out?
Yeah, it's that nothing worth doing comes easy. You know, even though I feel like after I got done playing and I wanted to be a coach, you know, you think pie in the sky. I want to coach in the Champions League. I want to do this or that, and it's like you're always you're a long ways from it. So just to take step by step, being an assistant and then jumping into a head coach role, was a great opportunity for me. Sometimes you don't know where the opportunity is going to come from. But I think just working hard and doing the right thing step by step, eventually it'll take you to where you're supposed to be. And then ultimately, I've had a ton of ups and downs since I've been coaching, and it's like never getting too low and never getting too high on whatever's coming or whatever you're presented with, just to try to keep even keel and keep going through improving each process that you have, and just try to be a better coach every day and impart that on your players, that respect the day, and the journey, and even the sacrifice. I tell that to my players a lot. I enjoy the bad parts too, because one day they're gone and you look back and you miss them.
One of the other things that we wanted to get into with you this morning is, we've mentioned giving back to the community, but we also wanted to get into the impact that you being a hometown guy, coaching your hometown club, and being able to give folks an understanding about one of the most horrific moments in U.S. history. We're coming up on the centennial of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, and FC Tulsa has gotten to the forefront of making sure that folks don't forget. And even with something as simple as the Greenwood script on the jersey this year, when it came to wanting to make this kind of an impact and making folks not forget about what happened at Greenwood, what was that whole conversation like for you as someone who's a hometown guy and see it come to where it is now?
Yeah, it's part of my initiatives as a coach, being African American, being from this community. Actually, I'm born and raised on Greenwood, so it means a lot to me. When I spoke to our club about it, they didn't bat an eye, and they've been extremely supportive through all of this and taking the lead. Even once the season started, my focus it's really focused on the team. And so a lot of these initiatives, they've kind of taken the lead on that, and I'm impressed. I'm really happy with the club. When I think back personally on what's happened in the past in 1921, it used to make me a bit angry, but now it gives me a sense of pride knowing that I'm from a community that was extravagant. That was wealth. There was over 600 African American businesses, and it wasn't a street; it was a community. And these are things that haven't really happened again since that time. So it gives me a sense of pride where I come from. It encourages me to be the best that I can be. And I'm happy that our club, our stadium, is in the center of where everything transpired on Greenwood. So every game I get to sit in that stadium and reflect about what took part there, but not feel bad about it, but also feel a sense of pride.
It's been inspiring to see what you and your club have done to raise awareness for people who might not know, might not be from Tulsa, might not know, some of these stories. It's incredible to be able to do that and do what you guys are doing on the field so far. Perfect record. We're going to see you here in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. How would you describe the way that your team approaches the game stylistically? What's a little bit of your philosophy that you've imparted to your squad so far this season?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most important parts of the game is the transitions, so being able to get the ball and attack and be brave and be aggressive, but at the same time, respect your opponent. And when you lose the ball to quickly try to put pressure and recover. But overall, it's being flexible. You play teams that say, we want to dominate the ball or we want to play direct. I think we have the ability to do either. We can sit back in very organized blocks and counterattack. If teams dropped off of us, we have the ability to kind of pin teams back and counter press. That's the kind of the profile of a team we built. We've seen both this season so far. We've seen both in games. It's when you're on the road in the USL, you have to expect if you're winning that teams are going to throw everything at you, and you have to be very disciplined and see if you can hit them on a counter on the break and close games out. And we've been able to show that we're capable of doing that.
So then would you have rather kept on playing in short order, or would you like to have this break that you're having that's kind of forced by the schedule? You got off to a hot start. Would you have rather kept the momentum going by playing, or do you mind the time off right now?
Yeah, you can look at it both ways. I mean, you play games in quick succession. Players are going to get hurt. So we have a few guys that are a little beat up. So it's good to take a break. Also, it's mentally. I know I've been pretty demanding on the players, and sometimes they just have to have a release mentally as well, not the pressure of a match. So I think leading up to the Indy match, we talked a lot about having a bit of a break, and that we wanted to close it out with a win and then get to refocus a bit. So the guys should be hungry again for the next one.
Coach, thanks for hanging out with us. We know that you're kind of getting ready for practice, and you're going to enjoy watching everybody else play for a little bit. Looking forward to seeing FC Tulsa continue things, and congrats on the hot start. Thanks for letting us kind of poke into the office here a little bit. Michael Nsien, the head coach of FC Tulsa. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Soccer Down Here.
I appreciate the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Be well. Michael Nsien from FC Tulsa, and it's good that we can let folks in on hot starts and things like that when it comes to what we're seeing so far with the season. Obviously, with the divisions a little jumbled, you're getting new competitions, but where Tulsa's concerned, when you can start out with a rival, start out on the road, and you're coming out of there with 3 wins on the jump, it's obviously that's the kind of start you're looking for.
3 wins out of 3. Tulsa's number 3 in the power rankings that were recently released. Tampa Bay and Phoenix hold on to the 1 and 2 spots. They're also perfect, 2-0 so far. Tulsa has been the biggest climber. El Paso had a late draw against New Mexico, and that has them drop a little bit in their first game of the season. Louisville couldn't win back-to-back. They fall to 5 in the power ranking. San Antonio falls a spot as well. Sacramento has moved up a spot with their first win of the season in Game 1. Rio Grande Valley might be the biggest storyline in the league outside of Tulsa right now, and they're going to play later this year as well. Rio Grande Valley is a really interesting one to watch with Wilmer Cabrera back in place. Vicente Sanchez, one of the oldest goal scorers in USL Championship history. That's a fun team to watch. They're one that you're looking at random games, on an evening and Rio Grande Valley's playing, I recommend checking in on them.
Yeah, and, this is definitely not the Rio Grande Valley squad that we've seen in the past where they're struggling toward the bottom of the division, with Wilmer Cabrera coming in. Obviously, folks who remember him from his time in Major League Soccer, if that's the first drawing card that's like, I want to catch up on that, then it's an easy in for you to watch a team like RGV who's out of the blocks at 2-0, and they get San Antonio next, so that's going to be a big contest for both of them.
That's a huge one coming up. That New Mexico-El Paso game, I watched the end of that one. That was a wild one. That's a great rivalry, and I think what we're starting to see in USL Championship and USL League One, we know about Portland-Seattle. We know about the Hudson River Derby. We know here Atlanta and Orlando and the different rivalries in MLS. But you're seeing true rivalries emerge in the second and the third divisions. And it's not just, it's 2 teams here are close by. Like it has a rivalry feel. El Paso and New Mexico is a game that you should watch when that one pops up. It's a good rivalry. Tulsa, OKC Energy. That's a good rivalry. San Diego and Phoenix now. That's a good rivalry. There are good games in this league that are not just 2 good teams playing or 2 teams nearby or you're looking at this player, you're looking at that player. The game has a bigger feel to it. That was what I took away from that El Paso, New Mexico game was you could drop this game anywhere in the world and it holds up because it's just a really good match between 2 teams that don't really like each other. You had great energy in the crowd in El Paso. Like, it was a really fun watch.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that has drawn me in over the last handful of years. When you go into these markets and you're bringing something new, with El Paso Locomotive, and then you have New Mexico United just one state over, and you're getting these natural additions where when you go to the lab and you're talking over 10,000 people showing up in New Mexico to watch soccer, and what you're seeing with El Paso as well. For me, it's fun to see these organic rivalries come in with these new clubs, and they hop right into it, and you get to see what it's like for these pockets of the country that you might not have known were true soccer pockets for the country. And it just adds to your viewer base, and it adds to the education and what you're looking at when you're looking in the lower division.
Joaquin Rivas was named Player of the Week in the USL Championship from Tulsa. A couple of goals against Indy 11. El Salvador International. He was voted on by the national media panel. He got my vote. Team of the week from this side of the country, Steven Dos Santos from Tampa Bay was there. Corbin Bone from Lou City was there. Forrest Lasso, who we know very well, was there. But this was a heavy Western Conference team of the week.
And Joaquin Rivas, Player of the Week, and Bradley Bourgeois on the defense, both for FC Tulsa. And since we mentioned what we saw with Wilmer Cabrera, past relationships coming to the fore, your keeper this week, Tyler Derrick. And so that Texas influence is there with Cabrera, and Tyler Derrick between the sticks for RGV ends up with Player of the Week for Team 3.
All right, games to keep an eye on this weekend in the USL Championship. Charleston and Charlotte on Friday night, 7 o'clock in Charleston. Red Bulls 2 hosting the Miami FC. I'm really curious to see what the Miami FC looks like this year. I know they were not happy with all of their previous success in other leagues, and they struggled last year. It was a tough go for them in the USL Championship. They've reloaded, and they have some much bigger expectations than what we've seen so far. Real Monarchs, who always has a strong squad connected to Real Salt Lake, they're hosting LA Galaxy 2 on Friday night. Move on to Saturday, Birmingham and Memphis, which is a nice little rivalry as well. That's going to be in Birmingham.
At Legion Field.
Yeah, what's the deal with the Legion Field thing?
I don't know, and it might be from what we've been discussing in the past, having to do with the field issues at BBVA, and so they move it to Legion Field, to where it's a turf surface.
Yeah, how much of Legion Field is actually operational these days?
The lower bowl is.
Okay,
and there are sections of it that are available, and UAB, until their stadium is fully operational and built, that's where UAB plays football.
Yeah.
So it's at Legion Field this go-round. It'll be interesting to see how Birmingham, who is used to playing on grass, transitions over and plays on turf this go-round.
Yeah, I want to see what that one looks like. Tampa Bay and Phoenix, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. That is what should have been the championship match last season that was postponed because of COVID outbreaks. And that's one of the cross-conference games that has to draw your attention. Two of the best run clubs in the league.
Yeah, and that one's going to be fun. Solomon Asante, obviously, you keep an eye on Phoenix. You're looking for him for Phoenix Rising. And this one, if you're into the lower divisions, you keep an eye on this one too, just because we don't get the chance, unless you're really looking at ESPN Plus, and it is USL Championship After Dark, you're not going to be looking at Phoenix. And so this is that opportunity for those crossover games to look at two of the top teams in a regular season contest. And it's going to be an interesting night to see how it plays out.
Hey, you think MLS After Dark is crazy? Sometimes USL Championship After Dark is completely out of hand. Sunday, it won't be After Dark, but we will have a watch-along for OKC Energy hosting Atlanta United 2. That is the second time these teams have played. Crazy scheduling to go there, come back, have a week off, then go there again for Sunday afternoon, 6 afternoon local time, 6 o'clock our time. On Sunday, we'll be here on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here for a watch-along of that, and the watch-along will lead straight into our Twos review show that will be live at the conclusion of the match, and that'll go out as a podcast as well once it is done recording. Anything else USL Championship you wanted to touch on?
quickly, let's update Legion at Legion and give you the rundown on that. There was a statement that came out earlier this week from President and General Manager Jay Heaps from Birmingham. Says that, quote, "We have been working closely with UAB facilities and UAB athletics this past week and are encouraged by the progress being made to address the current field conditions at BBVA Field. Collectively, we've made the decision to protect the field and play this game at Legion Field. BBVA is an excellent venue. Look forward to the rest of the season. Continued partnership with UAB facilities and athletics." And they're very complimentary about the city turning this one around short notice so they could have Legion at Legion. So it is to protect the field at BBVA.
All right. We will be back next Thursday for our next USL Championship review. And this always goes out as a separate podcast, but it's part of our Thursday morning show in the 10 o'clock hour to kick things off. So you can watch it live or you can check the podcast later. Michael Nsien was great. It was awesome to catch up with him and everything that's going on out in Tulsa. Lane United 2 has their home opener next Wednesday before our next championship recap. I'm sure we'll be talking about it between now and then on the regular SDH shows, but hope to see a good number of you at Fifth Third Bank Stadium for Tulsa's visit to Atlanta. Should be a fun match.
A little action at the Fraction involving FC Tulsa. It's going to be a fun one. And that'll do it for our look at the USL Championship here on SDH.